And then also I started to realize while I was at 3 Mice that how you view yourself is equal to how others view you and therefore pay you.
Okay.
So I sat with Paul Kukubo. He was like, we're not looking for anybody at this time. I'm not too sure. I said, listen, you need me. I came with my assignment from school. I'm like, Paul, this is the research I did on. And I was like, I'll start from the bottom. Imagine it's okay.
What?
How much can you afford? Yeah. And he's like, fine, come on Monday. And so I joined the team.
How much are you getting for that
15K.
job? Ooh, not bad.
It was bad. It was bad. But it was fine. And when I got in, I met amazing humans. Like, let me tell you, you remember how St. Mary's was? With amazing humans who've done amazing things. And I'll use that word many times. 3 Mice was an all-star cast. From, Paul Kukubo ended up being ICT, head of the ICT ministry. What was that?
The thing that was formed even with Diram, with Enegon.
Anyway, Ken Njoroge ended up setting up Cellulant. I worked with Ken Njoroge. There was Fadi, who was the most amazing guy who worked with Flash. Yeah. There was, let me tell you, Makumi, there was Kevin Omondi, there was Atia, there was, what was her name? Oh my gosh, just amazing, amazing, like for real.
One of those guys is about to probably have Kenya's first unicorn.
Yes.
Cellulant.
Like honestly, all the different people who worked in that space left and have done phenomenal things. So I'm so honored.
Is Fadi of ARC?
Yes, Fadi of ARC.
What?
I worked with Fadi of ARC at 3 Mice. In fact, he recently did a post on LinkedIn about his journey, and he talked about his journey at 3 Mice, and it's quite an interesting read. Look for it. So anyway,
so you're marketing at this time.
So I started marketing. We're selling a website for like 1 million shillings. Without smiling, eh? Some of the solutions we did like for Coke and for like not Old Mutual, it was Coke and KQ and 3 million. Like without smiling.
And this is
we were
static websites.
We were the only people in Kenya
who could do websites.
Who could do websites. Honestly, we were the only ones who could do websites, like serious websites, like e-commerce solutions, and portals and things like that. So that's what I sold.
So, okay, don't even rush on this. First and foremost, you're not in sales, you're in marketing, but still, are you the one who's...
It was sales and marketing.
So,
I was in sales and marketing.
So how are you then getting into these rooms? You have no networks here?
So because, or maybe... I was in the department, so I had a boss.
Oh, okay,
yeah?
okay.
Yeah.
You're part of the... You didn't start at the top of the marketing. You are at the bottom of the marketing. Okay.
Yeah.
What did your role look like?
So it was a sales job and a marketing job. So, lots of meetings, pitches, sending out emails, meetings,
I get it.
Yeah. So it was a sales job, but we called it business development.
Yep. Sounds nice. Still today they call it that.
We called it business development. But that's also where I learned how to pitch, how to speak to clients, how to sell, water to ice to an Eskimo. Let me tell you. And then now my conscience started. So now actually what happened was we started having briefcase guys coming up. These guys from uni who'd be able to do our website. And it was like, how are you guys selling a website for 1 million?
Yep.
And then, we have these other... So of course also the economy was doing what it was doing.
Yep.
And so companies were trying to find easier, cheaper ways to get these solutions done.
Rina, we need to just say what you've said. There is always disruption happening.
Yeah, always.
That's how I ended up working with you, because we were disruptors at 4 Up.
Yes, you were.
People were shooting videos for 1 million. Then we came and said...
There you go.
So disruption constantly happens.
Constantly. So we were disrupted, like majorly. So these guys would come and sell a website for... It started at 500,000 first. Then it went to 200,000.
Yep.
And it was like, hey? Anyway, those are details. I then began to feel that the solution that we're offering... So first of all, the way we were structured was like a Mercedes-Benz, we had people who were in charge of information architecture. There's a science about how
The website is laid out.
how website is laid out. I remember Kaburu Kobia, brilliant mind, would be for this is how this needs to be laid out. This needs to, you know. Then someone else would come and do the design. Then there's someone who does just Flash. Now that's your Faida.
Yes.
Someone else does the design.
Yeah. You know, when you said Flash, I get it. You mean Flash,
Flash,
the application.
The application.
That's so old school.
It's very old school.
Oh my God, Flash. Sorry, that's the... You know, I wish people have understood that 101.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, that's taking me back.
Let me tell you. So anyway, so I started to feel, okay, the sales I was struggling. So then I became head of business development because my boss left and he started his own business.
Yes, and that's what normally happens
Yeah,
again.
yeah. So I became now head of business development. Now the pressure was on because I have to sell and I have to collect. And it became difficult because of the disruption that was happening.
Yep.
And there's pressure because we're like 20 people earning mega salaries.
By the way, wait, don't skip that bit. You're at 15,000 shillings. I promise I'm coming back to this.
Yeah, okay.
You're 15,000 shillings. Are you living in your own, have you moved out?
No, I hadn't moved out yet.
You're at your parents?
I was at my parents' home.
Do you have a car?
Yes.
You have a car?
Yeah.
Your parents' car?
Yes.
At this time?
Yeah.
So your world of savings and all of that, have you understood it?
No. So I'm in the process of understanding it. It's now a lady who worked with me called Kaburo who God used. And I told her this many years later. I said, Kaburo, thank you. Because she randomly gave me a book while at 3 Mice. I've just remembered the story. She gave me a book that was written, oh my gosh, what is her name? I'll remember her name. Anyway, so I read this book and it talked about investing and saving and how we just use money and how you need to budget and all of this. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I tore through this book. And then Kaburo again invites me to an office hangout where we're playing a game by Rich Dad Poor Dad called Cash Flow.
Oh, that game, yeah, game
Right?
changer.
So all this is random. You see how God places you in certain spaces. That experience at 3 Mice wasn't just a job for me. It influenced me in so many ways. I did cash flow and I was like, what? As in, it doesn't matter how much I earn. That's when it sank for me. Because I remember, I think I was a nurse, someone else was a janitor, someone else was a doctor in this game. And the aim of the game is to get out of the rat race.
Yep.
So you roll the dice, you get what they call doodads, and oh, you have a puncture, oh,
Yep.
you've just gotten, I don't know, twins, you've done I don't know what. And so you go back 3 steps, so you lose money and so on and so forth. So it's a game of life.
Yep.
And I remember during that game, the guy who was a janitor ended up wealthier than the doctor. And it just clicked for me, by the way, it doesn't matter what you earn. Because the kind of place the doctor will live, the kind of taxes he has to pay, versus the janitor and where the janitor lives. Oh my goodness.
And rat race is this whole element of not living hand to mouth, not paycheck, passive, what you talked about earlier on.
So yeah, the rat race is basically living from paycheck to paycheck. And the idea with the game is for you to get out of this rat race where your assets are financing your lifestyle. So the aim of the game is to get out of this rat race. How? You invest in assets that end up giving you cash flow that is equal to your expenses.
Yep.
And then now you're out of the rat race. Because whether you work or not, your expenses are paid for from your investments.
Yep.
That's the aim of the game. That's the game that I was just like, another light bulb came on for me. I loved it. I loved the game. And I loved the lessons. And I loved that environment. It was just there were such cool people who influenced me in such important ways.
So this 15,000 that you're making, part of the reason why I went back is because it starts increasing. By the time you're made head, you're not making 15,000.
No. It's increased.
I didn't want to skip this element. So by the time your mentality changes, though, when you're at 15,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also I started to realize while I was at 3 Mice that how you view yourself is equal to how others view you and therefore pay you.
Ooh.
Let me tell you, it's so interesting. I remember, I don't know how, but I saw the salaries I was getting 15K. This other girl, who was my peer as far as I was concerned, was earning 60. I went and sat with her. I said, hey, please, my friend, how? She asked me, what do you mean, how? I asked her, how are you earning 60K? She told me, what do you mean? Kwani, how much do you earn? I told her. She said, what? I was like, yeah. She told me, but how do you afford to do that? For me, I just said, listen, excuse me, this is my gift. This is what I do well. And for me to be able to do this for you, I need to pay my rent. I need to pay I need to pay this. And the least I can get from this job is 60K. So if you can't pay me 60, unfortunately, I can't work here. But she was brilliant.
So that's again, but she was brilliant.
She was brilliant.
So
and they needed her.
She was more than what they were going to pay her.
Yeah.
Or at least she matched what she was asking.
She matched what she was asking for.
Okay.
But she was also confident about being able to ask for it. Again, as an employer today, I will get away with what I can. So even if you're the most brilliant human in my workplace, if I can get away with paying you 10K, imagine that's what I'll pay you. If I can get away with it. Because I want to maximize shareholder value.
Yep.
Right?
You want the least expenses.
I want the least expenses.
Yep.
I'm reducing my expenses to least possible.
Yep.
And so if I can get away with paying you this, that's what I'll get away with. But the moment I encounter someone who I can potentially lose and will have an impact on my business, then I will adjust what I'll pay them because I need them.
First and foremost, that is so powerful, Rina. But I'm cognizant again about the audience that watches this.
Okay.
I have the 50-year-old plus or 40-year-old plus. I also have the 25-year-old. And for this sake right now, first of all, I say the core audience of CT is not yet born. She was not, let's dwell here a bit. She was not scared of being told no.
No.
She knew her value.
She has options.
She has options.
Yeah, because she was so qualified. That's one of the things that I have also learned. And I learned also at 3 Miles, is be so good at what you do, so good, Richie, that people come for you.
Be poached.
So don't go standing there saying, I want, like if I went and told Paul Kukubo at that first meeting that, because what I had expected to earn was that 60K as my first. This is 2000 and what? 2002.
Yep.
60K then was a lot of money. My point is that I wanted that 60K to start off with. In fact, I probably mentioned it to him, but he was like, I can't pay you that. Like, first demonstrate to me your value. I was like, give me 3 months. And promise me that in 3 months, once I've proved my value, we can have this conversation again. He said, sawa. So don't start with, I have to pay rent, so can you pay me 100,000?
Yep.
No. First get your foot through the door. Once your foot is through the door and you've demonstrated your value and now they need you, then now you can. It's an exchange of value. It's an exchange of value.
Yep.
Yeah.
Digital value economy. I keep saying value has to be returned for value.
Yeah.
But number 2, this is your first job in the country.
Yes.
It's not, you're not pulling this same stance of entering at 15K on your 5th job. That's a whole different, you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So at your first door, as you clearly said, you wanted the foot in. You're the one who's tarmacking. You're the one who's looking for the opportunities to get in. Yeah. But you put in a caveat in the conversation to say, let me come back to you after 3 months, and if I've demonstrated my value is
then
this.
we can increase it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did prove.
I did.
So again, let's talk about this thing. Your mindset has changed. You've started realizing this. You've played this cash flow game. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert
Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki.
I've read the book by Susie Orman. I've remembered her name.
Susie Orman. Influence changed your mind.
Yeah.
So with that 15,000, do you begin the journey out of the rat race, or
Not yet. I think, but I start to invest. And my first investment was, I was still at 3 Miles. So 3 Miles, by the way, influenced me so much.
So no, then that's what I mean. You started the journey out.
Yes, I did.
But with the 15,000, when you had 15,000.
Yes.
So what did you take out? A G?
So I can't
sock?
remember. All
Okay.
I remember is I was actually with Paul, my boss, the MD, and we're going for a meeting to pitch. And we're sitting at the reception waiting to see this influential guy in this space where we're going to pitch for a job. And while I was there, this guy walks in who's Paul's peer, and he was like, hey, how you doing? And what's going on? And blah, 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 blah. And they start talking about Kenya Breweries Limited. And he's like, man, have you seen the news? Did you see the paper today? And it's like, whoa, man. So I'm listening to their they're right next to me. I'm listening into their conversation.
Mentorship through proxy.
I'm telling you. Yeah, this guy's Castle Boys is leaving, and this is what's going to happen, and they're exchanging assets and blah, blah, blah. And I'm listening. Do you know, the first thing that I did at that table is pull the newspaper and look for this story. And I saw what was happening, and I was like, shucks. And the guy said, do you have ABL shares? And he's like, man, I don't have ABL shares. That lunchtime, during my lunch break, I went to town. I went into town to my dad's office because my dad at that time had already started the stock brokerage. And I went and asked him, excuse me, my friend, how come you've never told me to buy shares? How could you not tell me? He was like, huh? Anyway, forget it. I'm opening an account. I opened an account and I bought East African Breweries shares. Richie, those shares doubled.
This is so crazy.
That was my first investment.
That is, your story is powerful. Wow.
So I don't know whether Paul bought those shares because they were having the conversation. They were having a conversation. I eavesdropped. Well, they were right there.
Yes, they are not hiding
They're
from
not
you.
hiding.
That's what I'm saying, mentorship through proxy.
Yeah.
You are a fly
and
on
by the way, I
the wall
must say
quiet.
this, none of them worked for ABL, so there was no insider information.
Yes.
They were basically discussing a newspaper article.
The one that you picked up and read. Yeah. And they were able to understand.
Yeah. And that's, you can have all this knowledge. Again, I played cash flow. I had read books. Remember, my experience in university had taught me I need to save. And I did read about it. I became hungry to find out, how do I grow my money? But it wasn't until I actually bought shares and experienced skin in the game, when I actually learned.
So, wow. Who's Rina? You're dropping gems. You're dropping them. There's the mentorship aspect that would have never happened if you hadn't put the foot in the door for the 15K.
Yeah.
But then there's also, like, how many shares did you buy and where did you get the money from?
Oh, I can't remember the amount.
But did
of
you
course,
get...
I had savings. I had a bank account because I was earning a salary. The only expense I had was my fuel. Okay? So the car, I had access to a car. My siblings were out of the country.
Yes.
My parents had an extra car. It was an old rickety Toyota DL, which I used to drive around. And everything was my expense. So repairs and maintenance was my expense, and my lunch, if I went out for lunch. But I was careful about how I spent money because of having my experience. Yeah, so I did have savings. So I can't remember whether it was 30K or 50K. I can't remember how much it was.
But the 15K, and this is the point that I'm trying to... I'm realizing your norm is gold. What you think is normal is gold. You get? So I'm trying to literally say, by the time you're making 15K, even if it's 5 stock that you're taking out, you were taking out and you had started this thing called saving. Now that saving helped you transform saving into an investment. But from your 15K, Rina, there are guys who earn 15K, but their life expenses is 30K.
Yeah.
You get?
Yeah.
So, or there are people who think you start saving when you make 100 Gs.
Yeah.
That's why I'm dwelling here. I want us to break this thing through just hearing your life story, not me forcing it down people's throats. Your shares came as a result of your saving. Number 2, your dad had opened up Faida Investment. Was it called that at the time?
Yeah, it was called Faida Securities.
So, but you hadn't engaged in this world.
No, I hadn't.
Whoa.
I know. That's actually my biggest regret about university, because I should have bought shares when I was in Australia. Because I learned about them. I did a presentation about stocks and watched and tracked them.
It was your farm.
It was so academic. And I just didn't invest. I guess I was broke. But I guess it just seemed out there. You know how guys say, oh, it's just for those guys.
Yes.
That's my biggest regret. That I didn't...
Start at
it's not
21,
my biggest
but you
regret.
started.
It's one of my regrets.
But at least you started.
I did. I eventually did. Yeah.
Okay. And we'll talk about, in the case, have you lost KQ, for example?
Of course I've lost. What are you talking about? I've lost so much money, not just in stocks, even investing in other people's. I've lost in so many different ways.
Yes.
And yeah, it's part of life, right? You learn from your losses and your failures. I have so many of those.
Damn, this Chile is such a gold mine. Okay. So, at this time, okay, you move from 15 Gs. Now, of course, you all the way until now. What are you like now at? What is your growth goal?
I think
did you get
probably
that
went
60
to
Gs?
75. I did. Yeah.
So after the 3 months, you managed to.
After 3 months, it went to 30.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it went to 30.
Whoa, that must have been good. The double.
It was really good.
And now at this time, are you thinking of maybe leaving home or not yet?
No. So for me, my dad had always said that I'm not moving out of home. I'll move out into my home where I'm married. Yeah, there was always that thing for us that this is your home. When you get married, that's when you will move out.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did, at some point I moved out, but it was to their house, a house that they had. To start elsewhere. Because I kind of felt I wanted my independence.
Okay.
And Ridgeways became far because of traffic. And so I moved out. They had a house in Westlands, and that's where I stayed.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the time now you're head of marketing in this company, it's now at 75 Gs. And now you're head of it. You want to look for children. I like what you said. You're not just doing marketing. You're in sales, but you're also in literally what accountants do, following up the paycheck. You get?
Yeah.
So explain that and explain now. It sounds like you're entering transition.
Yeah, so somebody came from somewhere. A boss came. Hey, let me tell you, he was, at that age, I was 24, 25 now, at this point in time. And he was rough, He was rough. He was the head of operations. And he was eager to see things work. But the economy was doing what it was doing. The Metrocomias were here.
Kibaki hadn't switched our economy from, I thought Kibaki...
It wasn't immediate, It wasn't immediate. 2002, this was now beginning of 2003 now.
Okay.
And the economy was still kind of slowly starting to recover. But by this time, you can imagine the kind of competition we had.
Exactly.
Yeah. There were several people who'd opened up, small firms, briefcase guys who were able to give solutions. We had several government contracts that were not being paid. And so we've done work, we're not collecting. I'd keep calling, go visit, they're not paying. And there was stress. Now we're being paid on the 20th of the next month. Salaries were being delayed. It was a mess. Hey, this guy would come into my office, shut the door, and the profanity that would come out from his mouth. F this, you're a this, why can't you do this?
Much older than you in a month.
Well, maybe 6 to 10 years older and a man. And so it started to affect me. And I remember one time my dad just called to check up on me, just to say hi. And I started crying. He's like, hey, yeah, what is it? And I said what was going on. And this guy has called me at this, and I'm so stressed. And he asked me, do you have children? Are you paying rent? What is your problem? Can you get your bag and get out of there? And I remember thinking, hiya, I can leave. Like, I don't have to be stuck. It's like, it's so strange. I can actually leave. And I went back to my desk and I typed my resignation letter. And in a month's time, I left.
Nice.
And I didn't have another job to go into. But I had styling Q because I was still doing my styling Q stuff.
First and foremost, you honored the contract.
Yeah, I did.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
You didn't up and leave.
No. I didn't. I left well. In fact, Paul actually tried to get me to stay. He talked to me and he said, what's the problem, Rina? And I said, look, I have this challenge and I have the other challenge. And he said he would fix it. But I was like, I think it was my mom or dad who said, once you've tendered your resignation somewhere, please never go back. Just never go back. So I was like, no, I've made a decision. And then I left. So then I took the next, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, just in theater.
Transition into Sterling Q. Let's again take a slight break. We'll be back just now. What?